All right, next up. Well, what do you got next on your slate?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Paul Craig, Johnny Walker.
All right, I'm rolling with Paul Craig, and I mean, listen, Paul Craig, best jiu-jitsu, I think, outside of maybe Charles Oliveira in the UFC at least. He's the type of guy. He's going to get hit. He can lay on his back, wait for you in his full guard. Johnny Walker is really stupid. I think if you look at his face, he looks really stupid. He looks like.
You look at his knockouts.
Yeah, and like this was, Johnny Walker was like if you watch Game of Thrones, he was like the prince that was promised for a while there. Like he was this guy that was supposed to come in and beat John Jones, and he's really fallen off big time, as most of those guys have. The Dominic Reyes's and Anthony Smiths of the world. These guys have really fallen off. But, I think Paul Craig, even though he's going to upset I think he's going to be the only upset maybe on the main card over a Brazilian. Like I was talking about how these cards are set up for Brazilians to win. Paul Craig is going to do it with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I think Johnny Walker maybe knocks him down, and Paul Craig waits for him on the ground, and then Johnny Walker follows him down there like a stupid, dumb idiot. And Johnny Walker gets locked up in something where he gets his arm. I think you see Paul Craig winning by, I think, a leg triangle choke, and puts Johnny Walker to sleep because Johnny Walker's too stupid to tap. So
I think Paul Craig's gonna end up like getting like something elegant, like a Gogo Plata or something on Johnny Walker, because Johnny Walker is just not going to see it coming because he's too kind of caught up in his own thing. It's going to be interesting, especially considering Johnny Walker is coming off a submission win over Jan Cutelaba in a rear naked choke. That might be his first submission win. I'm not positive. Let's check it out.
Yeah, but Jan Cutelaba is also like he's another fucking moron that just walks guys down, like gets hit, and Johnny Walker. He starts off fights like really, really fast. So I think, yeah, he lands something on Paul Craig. Paul Craig baits him in. It might not even hurt Paul Craig, and he just does like the Charles Oliveira method, which is working out really well for a lot of these like super great jiu-jitsu players. And, I think Paul Craig he baits Johnny Walker in, and Johnny Walker gets snatched up.
I hear you. I couldn't disagree. I think Johnny Walker, like you said, is going to bait forward. And maybe he's going to be a little bit more tempered. But again, he's fighting out of SBG Ireland. So I think he wants to strike. And I think no matter – Paul Craig is so crafty, he's going to get on the ground somehow. And because Paul Craig is so good at pulling guard, like you just have to get close to Paul Craig, and he'll grab something on you some weird way. And it's going to end up on the ground. And then I'm really scared if I'm Johnny Walker. And if I'm Johnny, I may be a little extra concerned, or if I'm a fan of Johnny, or if I want him to win, I'm invested in Johnny Walker winning. I may be a little concerned for him coming off that submission win over Jan Cutelaba. Maybe he thinks he has a little bit more of a jiu-jitsu or a grappling prowess, and he actually has. And he's willing to entertain this ground game with Paul Craig, who is a guy who, like, you don't want to be on the ground with Paul Craig. He had his last loss against Volkan Ozdemir, but Volkan Ozdemir was very intelligent and able to not be on the ground with him, stay striking, and that wasn't the best version of Paul Craig that we've ever seen either. So I hope that we can come in here and have a much better version of Paul Craig. He is aging a little bit, and against a 30-year-old Johnny Walker is really had trials and tribulations throughout his career. 6'6", 82-inch reach here. I think Paul Craig is just going to do what Paul Craig does, get in there and get the win. Very divided on Tapology. 51% are actually on Walker to get the knockout. He knocked out Jamal Hill, or he got knocked out by Jamal Hill. Well, I want to look back and see his last knockout was over Ryan Spad, which actually has aged pretty well if Johnny Walker's own performances hasn't hindered what that would have done for him. He hasn't looked great either, getting knocked out in very odd fashion. So I'm going to give Johnny Walker probably the advantage on the feet, although Paul Craig is not a slouch there. It's just obvious where these two fighters' strengths are. Grappler submission versus a bit of like an odd striker. I'm going to take Paul Craig in here. He's got the experience.
Don't forget intelligence level. Like, I think Paul
Craig, fight IQ is a big port. Yeah, big port.
I think, like, if you gave these two guys a fucking standardized test, that Paul Craig would get, he would outscore Johnny Walker by a lot of points. I think Johnny Walker, if he gave him the SAT, he'd score a 7.
All right, boys. Before you fight, I know you're cutting weight, but we need you to take this SAT.
Yeah, he just strikes me as a fucking moron, though. Like, and maybe he's a really intelligent guy, but I don't see it. And Paul Craig, very well spoken, very intelligent in the octagon. So intelligent that he was willing to leave his career behind at maybe a year ago, because he knows. I mean, now he has a chance at the belt, but like a year ago or so, he was like, I'm just fighting, and I'm just getting beat up. I'm getting my brains beat in. Like, that's an intelligent thing to do, and a lot of guys stick around too long. But I do think now, actually, in the year 2023, Paul Craig he's in legitimate title contention at this point, where if he gets this win and then maybe they boost him up to, another big name after this, he does have, a bit of a claim to the belt, or at least a fight to the belt at some point. So, the ceiling is very high for Paul Craig as well in this year.